Jai Acyutananda Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
My obeisances to you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
That was some answer from Tridandi Maharaj.
How'd you like it?
I liked it. And I have a big question to ask him. Will he be on tonight?
Yes, he's supposed to be coming. Did you read my email to you whether you would like to sing a little kirtan before we begin each evening?
How about a big one?
Okay, that's even better.
You have this one on. You sang that last night. What about Gauranga?
I can put up whatever you want.
Gauranga Bolite Have. I mean Gauranga Dutipada.
Gauranga Dutipada. Okay. Okay. Let me just locate that. That's great. Do you have a mridanga there?
No.
What if I help you get one?
Through the screen?
Behold my mystic powers.
Yeah. Cyberdanga.
Cyberdanga.
You play.
I have one. Huh?
You play kartals and I'll just sing.
Okay. Good. So this is Gaurangara Dutipada, Sabarana Sri Gaura Mahima from Prarthana by our dear Narottam Das Thakur. And I will, there we go. And now we're ready to roll. Take it away, maestro. Hit
it. Should we wait for others?
No, why don't we just start? You can do it again a second time if you want.
No, I don't like doing that.
No?
No.
All right, as you like.
Yeah, I wanted Maharaj to hear my version because he came. At first, I was cracking my head. I said, oh boy, the most important person that I wish could hear my explanation of Tatastha, and he comes in just when I'm finished. On the other hand, he probably would have, and I would have loved it if he also entered in some comments. But since he came after, I got to tell the whole thing. And I particularly, if he's on tonight, I will tell him how. Also, remember, I stopped Mr. Weinberg. I stopped Mr. Weinberg when he's starting to argue with me. I don't like it. I'm not going to make a debate or a mischief.
I don't think Mr. Weinberg will be here tonight. He comes Mondays usually and sometimes Wednesdays, but never Fridays. I think he's on book distribution.
Did he used to have some long beard?
I don't think I've ever seen him with a beard. Maybe a little goatee. That's the most I've seen.
Goatee, yeah. And he was an artist?
Rock guitar player singing Krishna songs.
Oh, then I met somebody else then.
He had a band called Changing Bodies, and his wife Rukmini is a lead singer.
Are they called?
Changing Bodies.
No, but are they also called Kindred Spirits?
No, that's Gauravani Prabhu, Rukmini, and Bhardaraj's son. They were called something astronauts. The something astronauts. That's another name they have.
Oh, so that's Bhardaraj or but
Bhardaraj and Rukmini's son.
Badri Narayan. Who's Badri Narayan?
It's Badarayan, first of all.
Badarayan.
Yeah.
And was there a Badri Narayan anywhere?
Yes, Badr Narayan Das Goswami now. He used to be the GBC and president of LA and San Diego for me.
I'm trembling in my boots.
You better be, Baba. So Badr Ryan, he met
Got a chest
Prabhupada in
full of
72.
medals.
Yes, all
Because I
accolades.
met
are
somebody with the dark black glasses and a gray goatee, and he says, "Do you remember me?" I said, "Yeah, Leon Trotsky."
there.
So I don't know if it's the same fellow.
Yeah, no, he I met him in the parking lots. I met him in Chicago in 75 when I joined. He was a book distributor. He has maintained his guitar playing and singing songs about Krishna for many,
You
many
know, there was a Mexican devotee, very humble and sincere book distributor, small. And he had that kind of Mexican face that's very round and very pale
Yes.
and a little weak mouth. And he went to a drive-in theater where they were playing The Exorcist.
Oh no.
And then he comes up to the window of the car, tap, tap. Hello, can I give you?
Did they give him a big donation?
Hello, can I show you a book? Yeah. About Mexican. Yogeshwar and I went to the Bordentown, Jersey maximum security prison to do kirtan. Two funny things happened. We were late. The officers had to get different keys for stairways and passageways. And Yogeshwar said, "You know, we were supposed to start at 12. It's already 12:30." And the officer says, "All they got is time here, you know." But then all these drug dealers and everything, they were all Latinos, and they go, "Hare Kenya, Hare Kenya, Kenya, Kenya." So they got it. And they were chanting.
I did a program with Dayendra one time. I was in Vrindavan with him, 2000, whatever it was. And we were told that there was a prison, I think in Agra. So we went there and in a big courtyard, we were up on a little stage and all the prisoners, they started dancing and very enthusiastic. You could see they were all devotees. They loved it.
They better.
That we had a captive audience.
Yes.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Chandra Prabhu. Welcome back.
Dandava Pranam Gaura Prabhu, Acyutananda Prabhu. Very good to see you.
You know, Acyutananda, Krishna Chandra Prabhu was in your old stomping grounds out there in Long Island.
What city? What town?
Huntington.
Okay. Is that North Shore?
North Shore, exactly. Gold Coast.
Yeah, Huntington. And I went to one place on North Shore and people said, "Don't tell anybody about this place." They wanted to keep it very pure
Right.
and like that. And there was a Greek church. I remember I bought a little plaque of St. George. And I said, "How much you want for this?" They said, $1. I said, "Take $2." I mean, it was very nice. And they walked around, all the Greek Catholic Orthodox. They went, he's the man that gave $2.
Nice.
It was a very nice mountain.
Huh. It was a Greek Orthodox church?
It was a
Is there
Greek
another-
Orthodox. Yes, Jivan Mukta has arrived.
Okay, now we can start.
Now we can start.
Oh, boy.
Because Jivan Mukta's arrived, now we're
So
ready.
put up the song.
Okay. The Acyutananda Prabhu agreed to do kirtan with us before Jivan Mukta. Isn't that great?
Nice.
Yeah, and he chose this song. Gorangera Dutipada.
Oh, beautiful.
But we got to get
Gorangera Dutipada. Oh boy.
sorry.
One more
excuse
time,
me.
I'm gonna hang up. I swear to gosh. Gorangera Dutipada. Jaradhana Sampada Gaurangera.
Duti
Everybody
Pada
sing.
Jaradanda Pada.
Okay, this is, I'm stopping now. This is a test of, there's a gap and a delay in the system. So
So you just sing,
so
and
we'll just go on, even if it's
I
you
would,
know, broken.
I would like to hear, I would just like to hear you sing, because it's
yes,
going to
you
be
just
a
sing.
mess.
Okay.
It's going to be total disaster if we all try to do this.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay, Gorangera do Tipade Pada Jaras Dana Sampada Sejane Bhakati Rasasara Gaurangera Mathulila Jara Karne Praveshila Hridaya Nirmala Bhelotaro Je Gaurangera Namalai Tara Hoya Premodai Tare Mui Jai Boli Hari Gaurangir Gunete Jure Nitya Lila Tare Sure Sejane Bhakati Adhikari Gaurangera Sangi Gane Nitya Siddha Kari Mane Sejai Brajendra Sutapasa Sri Gaura Mandala Bhumi Jivajane Chintamani Tarahaya Braja Bhumi Vasa. Here's the big one. Gaura Prema Rasaranave Setaranga Cheva Dube Sri Radha Madhava Antaranga Grihe Babonete Take Hagoranga Bole Dake Narottama Mage Tarasanga Goranga Duti Pada Jaradhana Sampada Sejane Bhakati Rasasara. Translation. Anyone who has accepted the two lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya can understand the true essence of devotional service. Oh, my pictures are in the way. Gotcha. If one is captivated by the pleasing pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, the dirty things in his heart will become cleansed. One who simply takes the holy name of Gaura Sundar, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, will immediately develop love of Godhead. To such a person, I say, bravo, very nice. Boli Hari. Excellent. If one appreciates the merciful pastimes of Lord Chaitanya and feels ecstasy and sometimes cries, this process will immediately help him to understand the eternal pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Simply by understanding that the associates of Lord Gauranga are eternally free from material contamination, one can immediately be promoted to the transcendental abode of Lord Krishna. If one simply understands that the land of Navadvip is none different from Vrindavan, then he actually lives in Vrindavan. See, if you just understand it, you're living there. You don't have to go there. If one says, let me dive deep into the waves of nectarian ocean of transcendental loving movement introduced by Lord Chaitanya, he immediately becomes one of the confidential devotees of Radha and Krishna. It does not matter whether one is a householder living at home or a vanaprastha or sannyasi living in the forest. If he chants, O Gauranga, and becomes a devotee of Lord Chaitanya, then Narottam Das begs to have his association.
And there's two more purports there. Is that sufficient?
Where's purport?
It's underneath that here.
Okay.
Sri Dandi Swami is asking for the, it does not exist. That's weird.
Yeah. Huh.
I
There's
wonder.
some blue links. What if you tap on them? What happens? Try number
Okay,
2.
there we go. There we go.
Oh, boy, I can't read this.
Jiva Mukta, would you like to read? Sri Dandi Swami lost the link. I'm sending it to him.
You need 3 eyes.
Sure. Gorangera duti pada, yara dana sampada, se jane bhakati rasa sar. This is another song composed by Narottam Das Thakur. And he says that one who has accepted the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya, in other words, one who has the only asset of possession, the 2 feet of Lord Chaitanya, such person is supposed to know what is the essence of devotional service. Se jane bhakati rasa sar. What is the purport of devotional service, or what is the humor of devotional service, can be understood by a person who has accepted Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet as everything. The idea is that actually Lord Chaitanya, he is Krishna himself, and he is teaching devotional service to the living entities personally, directly. Therefore, the modes of devotional service as taught by Lord Chaitanya is the most perfect. There cannot be any doubt. The expert or the master is teaching the servant how to work. If somebody is master of some engineering work and he is personally teaching some assistant, that teaching instruction is most perfect. Similarly, Lord Krishna himself, in the role of a devotee, is teaching devotional service. Therefore, the path chalked out by Lord Krishna is the most feasible way for perfection to devotional service. Se jane bhakati rasa sar. Sar means essence. Should I continue?
Please. Or,
And then,
unless Krishna Chandra wants to read too. I don't know.
I would like to read as well. May I read one paragraph?
no, I want to.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
I appreciate it.
This
Okay.
fighting must stop.
Indeed. And then he says, Gaurangera Madhurya Lila Yare Karne Pravashila. Now he comes to the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. He says that Lord Chaitanya's pastimes are also as much transcendental as Lord Krishna's. As in the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that anyone who can simply understand the transcendental appearance, disappearance, activities, work of Krishna, he immediately becomes eligible to enter into the kingdom of God. Simply by understanding the pastimes and the work, transcendental activities of Krishna. Similarly, one who enters into the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, he immediately becomes freed from all contamination of the heart. Gaurangera Madhurya Lila Yare Karne Pravashila. Karne Pravashila means simply one has to receive the message of Lord Chaitanya. Karne means in the ear, to give the message a submissive oral reception. Then immediately one's heart becomes freed from all material contamination.
Then he says, oh, sorry, who else is here? Maybe Rija Goranga, do you want to read?
Sure. Prabhu.
Then he says.
How do I mute myself? I want to make a phone call. Is that mute down here in the lower left?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, I'm going to call Loka
Okay.
Guru.
Dvija Prabhu, then he says.
Okay, I just got all the information for Sri Dandi Swami to join. Is there some problem with reading?
Oh, actually, Mataji, you were here
Hello?
first. What? Mataji?
Okay, go ahead.
Did you want to?
No, it's fine.
I didn't see you there on my screen here.
Where are we?
Yeah, I know. I'm still learning.
Okay, so we're at, and then he says, Then he says, Dvija, are you going to start?
I don't see anything on the screen. Am I going to read from the screen or?
Yeah, from the screen. Then he
Yeah,
said,
oh.
Ye Gaurangera Namalaya.
Usually I'm seeing the screen share. I'm not seeing it right now.
No?
Then he says, Ye
Oh, I got it. I got it.
Nama. Okay.
Sorry. And then he says, Gorangera Madhuri.
No, the one below that.
Oh, boy.
Narottam Das Thakur recommends that anyone who simply chants Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda. Gauranga means all this paraphernalia. As soon as we speak of Gauranga, we should mean the five, Lord Nityananda, Advaita, Gadadhar, and Srivas, all together. So, Ye Gauranga Namalaya, anyone who chants, immediately he will develop love of Godhead. Yet Gaurangara Namalaya, Tarahaya Premadaya, Tare Mui Jaya Bolo Hari. Narottam Das Thakur says, I offer him all congratulation, because it is certain that he has developed love of Godhead. Then he says, Gauranga Gunete Jure, Nitya Lila Tare Spure. Anyone, if he cries by simply hearing the transcendental qualities of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he at once understands what is the loving affairs between Radha and Krishna. Sorry, did I skip ahead there?
No.
Okay.
Mataji, do you want to?
Okay. Nitya Leela means the pastimes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. Nitya Leela means
Hear
the
you too well. You're too close to the microphone. You're distorting.
Oh.
Stand back a little bit.
Yeah, I'm far away. Is the sound okay here?
Too loud.
Loud.
Okay, how about this? Is this better?
No.
Huh. Well, maybe I'll pass then.
Go outside.
Well, you could whisper like
Go downstairs.
like your president.
Yeah.
Okay.
You
How about this volume? Is that working or not?
No, it's very loud.
go ahead. Just go ahead. It's fine.
Yeah.
We'll turn
Okay.
our volume down.
Yeah. Nitya Leela means the pastimes or the loving exchange, affairs between Radha and Krishna. That is eternal. That is not temporary. We should not think that Radha Krishna's pastimes, loving affairs, is just like the business of a young boy or girl, as we see in this material world. Such loving affairs is not at all loving affairs. They're lusty affairs and they're not eternal. Therefore, they break. Today I'm in love with someone, the next day it breaks. But Radha Krishna Leela is not like that. It is eternal. Therefore, that is transcendental. And this is temporary. So simply one who is absorbed in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, he can immediately understand what is the actual position of the loving affairs of Radha Krishna. Nitya Leela Tare Spure, say Yaya Radha Madhava, say Yaya Vrajendra Sutapas. And simply by doing that, he becomes eligible to enter into the abode of Krishna, Vrajendra Suta. Vrajendra Suta means the son of Nanda Maharaj in Vrindavan. He's sure to go to associate with Krishna in his next birth.
Loka Guru Prabhu, do you want to read the next?
Sure. Gorangera Sangegane Nityasita Bolemani. Oops. Anyone who has understood that the associates of Lord Chaitanya, they are not ordinary souls, they are liberated souls. Nityasita Bolemani. There are three kinds of devotees. One is called Sadhana Siddha. Sadhana Siddha means by following the regulative principles of devotional service, if one becomes perfect, he is called Sadhana Siddha. Another devotee is called Kripa Siddha. Kripa Siddha means that even if he has not followed strictly all the regulative principles, still by the mercy of Acharya or devotee, or by Krishna, he is elevated to the perfectional stage. That is specially. And another devotee is called Nitya Siddha. Nitya Siddha means they were never contaminated. The Sadhana Siddha and the Kripa Siddha were contaminated by material touch. And by following regulative principles or by the mercy or grace of some devotee and Acharya, they're elevated to the perfectional stage. But Nitya Siddha means they were never contaminated. They're ever liberated. So all the associates of Lord Chaitanya, just like Advaita Prabhu, Srivas, Gadadhar, Nityananda, they are Vishnu Tattva. They are all liberated. Not only they, the Goswamis, there are many others, so they are ever liberated. So one who can understand that the associates of Lord Chaitanya are ever liberated, Nitya Siddha Bale Mane Se Yaya Brajendra Sutapas. Immediately he becomes eligible to enter into the abode of Krishna.
Where's Gaur?
I'm struggling like anything to get Sri Nandi Swami in behind the scenes. He's been waiting for 45 minutes for us. He's only got 20 minutes left.
No
Oh
problem.
my God.
Rani, would you like to read next?
Loka, tell Lolita to come. She really wanted to see him.
She's busy.
She has company.
Client.
Yeah, she told me. Okay.
Okay, and then I'll just read then. And then he says, Gauda Mandala Bhumi, Deva Janas Jintamani. The Gaur Mandala means the place in West Bengal wherein Lord Chaitanya had his pastimes. In Navadvip, during the Lord Chaitanya's birth anniversary, the devotees go and circumambulate different places of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. It takes 9 days. So that portion of Bengal is called Gauda Mandala. So Narottam Das Thakur says, one who understands that there's no difference between this part of the country with Vrindavan, Tadahai Vrajabhumi Vas, it is as good as one lives in Vrindavan. Then he says, Gaura Prema Rasar Narve. Lord Chaitanya's activities is just like an ocean of loving affairs of Krishna. Therefore, one who takes a dip into this ocean, Gaura Prema Rasarnave, Se Taranga Yeva Dube. Just like we take a dip and bathe and bath, and we play sport in the waves of the ocean or sea. Similarly, one who takes pleasure taking a dip and sporting with the waves of the ocean of Lord Chaitanya's distribution and love of God, such a person becomes immediately a confidential devotee of Lord Krishna. Say Radha Madhava Antaranga. Antaranga means not ordinary devotee. They are confidential devotee. And Narottam Das Thakur says, Grihe Vavanete Take, such devotee who is taking pleasure in the waves of Lord Chaitanya's movement, because he has become a very confidential devotee of the Lord. Okay, Sikarani, Mataji, do you want to finish?
Yeah, yes, I can.
No, I need her help, Maharaj.
What can I do?
I'm joining her on a WhatsApp conversation with him, trying to get him in.
Okay, next was Dvija. Dvija Prabhu, do you want to continue?
Therefore, Narottam Das Thakur
It was
said,
Krishna Chandra, sorry, it was Krishna Chandra next.
Oh, thank you, Prabhu. I appreciate that. Therefore, Narottam Das Thakur says, such devotee, it doesn't matter whether he's in the renounced order of life or whether he is a householder, griha. Griha means householder. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement does not say that one has to become a renounced order, sannyasi. Just like Mayavadi sannyasis, impersonalists, Shankaracharya, they put the first condition that you take up the renounced order of life first, and then talk of spiritual advancement. So in Shankara Sampradaya, nobody is accepted as bona fide impersonalist unless he has accepted the renounced order of life. But here, in Chaitanya's movement, there is no such restriction. Advaita Prabhu, he was a householder. Nityananda, he was a householder. Gadadhar, he was also householder. And Srivas, he was also householder. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also married twice. So it doesn't matter. Narottam Das Thakur says that to become in renounced order of life or to remain in householder life, that does not matter. If he is actually taking part in the movements of Chaitanya's Sankirtan activities and actually understanding what it is, he is taking sport in the waves of such devotional ocean, then such person is always liberated. And Narottam Das Thakur is aspiring his association ever increasingly. That is the sum and substance of this song.
So I have a question for Acyutananda Prabhu. Do you know anything about, like Ramananda Roy was a householder. He was a government employee of Maharaj Prataparudra. When he joined Lord Chaitanya in Jagannath Puri, what happened to his household life? Like, did his family join him? Did he basically take vanaprastha? Like, what happened?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because also I looked up further. Vaidya is a name of a Shudra caste, a subcaste, a gotra of Shudras. A Vaidya. So it's not a misspelling. We should say Vaishya. It's a caste. I looked up. It comes out of the Brahmo Samaj and the Arya Samaj that were movements. But all I know is that Ramananda Rai resigned, but Maharaj Prataparudra kept on paying him his salary, and that he was in charge of also the dancing girls, the Devi, what are they called?
Devi Dasis?
Huh?
Devi Dasis?
Say it slow.
Devi Dasis.
Devi Dasis. He was in charge because Lord Chaitanya, and it comes right after Junior Haridas gets rejected by Mahaprabhu for just spending a moment, maybe looking at a woman. And right after that, someone says, Ramananda Roy is even massaging the girls. And Mahaprabhu says he is completely beyond this world. When he touches them, it's like touching wood.
Kridandi Swami finally is here.
Okay. May I ask
All credit goes to me.
Okay, I gotta ask this question before the Haribol, Didi.
Haribol.
Haribol, kaisa hai?
Oh, local gurus there too.
Jai.
Yeah.
Dhanyavad,
Kaisa hai?
Prabhuji.
Kaisa hai,
Dhanyavad.
Radhiji?
Hare Krishna. Haribol. Haribol.
Haribol, Haribol.
Dhanyavad, Acyutananda Prabhu.
Thank you for your answer, and I want to get this question in. Everybody, I mentioned the overview that how Prabhupada explained Balaram on the right, Radharani on the left. Balaram expands the jivas in Goloka and all the Vishnus, and Radharani, we know, expands the Sakis and all the Lakshmis. That's where we get Lakshmi, Sastru, all the Lakshmis. That's as far as as I went, Acyutananda and those expansions. Narayan Maharaj did have a diagram painting of Goloka, Vaikuntha, and the material of Prakriti, just like the cover of the first canto.
He made
I
it.
made that. I made
But
it.
he had half of it of the spiritual sky bluish, and the other half
Yes.
red. You know, so and
Right.
last Wednesday you mentioned and also Gopeshwar Mahadev is in there, and I know if Prabhupada had put that in there, oh boy, the devotees would have gone Shiva crazy. Even now, I see devotees wearing Rudraksha mala. Somebody wanted to build a Shiva temple for the Hindus. I wanted to put in a Shiva lingam in Hyderabad. Prabhupada said no. But I said, but it'll attract we had a banyan tree that wouldn't die. Got hit by trucks in the construction, it wouldn't die. I said, let's put a Shiva lingam there. Prabhupada said no. So now, what is the further expansion of Krishna? Balaram on the right, Radharani on the left, and more. I'll shut up.
No, I'm interrupting your teachings of Lord Chaitanya reading. I had my book already here today. I wanted to come and listen to you discuss this topic about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his meeting with Prakasananda, Saraswati, etc. But I'm happy to talk about this particular topic if you want to interrupt your flow.
Please, please continue. Finish. Yes.
Well, my Gurudev has explained very clearly, and it's not explained anywhere else. This is the glitch, so to speak, but he explains in his meditation that the first expansion obviously is Sri Radhika. Swarup Shakti, the energy of Krishna, is manifesting. And from the energy of Krishna, all the rest of creation is manifesting. And the first expansion to manifest is Baladev Prabhu, because he represents the existence potency. Without Baladev Prabhu, nothing else can come into existence. So Baladev Prabhu has to be there. He is the first expansion, just as Brahma Samhita is stating. So there's no contradiction. There's no contradiction at all. We're not looking at any contradictions here. What Prabhupada said is 1,000,000% correct. And my Gurudev also would present it in that way, that yes, Baladev is the first expansion. And then he would stop and quietly say, from Srimati Radhika. It's coming through that vein. You know, I mean, it just logically sits very comfortably, personally, that Krishna doesn't do anything. And then he manifests Gopeshwar Mahadev from his right. This is who his yes, Prabhu. Acyutananda, okay.
So that means yes.
Oh, okay. I thought that meant stop. You had something to say.
That's the point that Prabhupada was not able to give us.
That's okay. It doesn't really matter in our honor to Baladev as a Kanda Guru Mula Tattva. You know, we appreciate that any road to devotion must come through Guru and Baladev Prabhu. That door must be there. So there's no anomaly here. That there's no difference. It's just a deeper appreciation. It's not understanding. I don't go with this trying to understand with my tiny little conditioned mind. I'm trying to appreciate the phenomena of Krishna's manifestation here, really and truly. I'm not looking to jump in there and try and catch it into my pocket, because I know I never, like you said, I think, none of us can understand the nature of eternality. None of us have experienced that. So we can't try to grasp it in that sense. All we can do is to hear submissively from the acharyas how they have presented it. And then we can, in our own way, or, you know, personally absorb that to appreciate it. So Baladev manifests directly from Swarup Shakti, in essence. And personally, I wouldn't present this very often in public unless I was sitting with a very mature audience, because it just throws them into a spin, like you said. And bringing in the aspect of Gopeshwar Mahadev, of course, the Shiva
tattva is so intriguing. There's 4 aspects to Shivji. We understand there's Gopeshwar Mahadev, Sadashiva, Shambhu, and Rudra. So Shambhu is carrying the glance into the Adara Shakti, and the Rudra is manifesting from between the eyes of Lord Brahma in anger at the 4 Kumaras. And Sadashiva is residing eternally in Kailash, but Sadashiva is directly Vishnu Tattva. He's coming directly from the body of Krishna, just as all the other Swamsa avatars are. Baladev Prabhu, or Nrsingadev, Kurma, Varaha, all of them are all direct Swamsa, Swa Amsa. That means own form. Swa means own. So they are all like that. I have to throw in something because Gaurav cautioned me that there's other younger devotees listening, so excuse me. But so Swa Amsa. Shivji is Swa Amsa, but miraculously he has the conception that he's a servant of Krishna. All the other avatars sit in their own personal godheads. Like Nrsingadev has his planet, Kurma has his planet, etc. Varahadev has his planet. But Shivji, he worships Krishna. He worships Krishna as Sankarshan or Lord Ram, like that. This is who he's, Vaishnavam Yata Shambhu. He's the greatest Vaishnava. This is who Shivji is. So he's termed Swamsa Bhav Abbas. This is the key to appreciating Shiva Tattva, to appreciate that Gopeshwar Mahadev is appearing from the right-hand side of Krishna. He's Swamsa Bhav Abbas. He is Swamsa, but he has the mood of being a Vibhinamsa, being a separated part. Therefore, we in our Sangha, and almost no other Gaudiya Sanghas, honor Shivji on Shivratri as Vishnu Tattva. We don't take grains on that day of Shivaratri because we honor him as Vishnu, even though he himself doesn't have that personal conception. So this is just an extra aspect about him manifesting from the right-hand side of Krishna. He's Gopeshwar Mahadev, and his purpose in manifesting, it's described, is to protect the Rasastali. The Rasa Leela is practically the first pastime that's going to be enacted. So as you said yourself, there's no connection of time in the spiritual reality. It's not, and this is where we can't understand a place which is beyond time. So the Rasastali is there, and there must be a protector because there are always negative influences in any condition. Otherwise, it's not perfect, it's not complete. But in the spiritual world, he's manifesting as Gopeshwar Mahadev. And certainly when he comes to this world, I mean, his roadshow in this material realm is also eternal. It's always going on. Every breath that Mahavishnu makes, the new universes are being created. And again, Krishna is manifesting. And he's always, as Prabhupada said so many times, he's always manifesting his eternal Leela. That's why they're eternal. That's why the Damodar Leela, for example, is eternal, because it's always going on in some material universe. It's not going on in the spiritual world because it's Naimitic Leela. It's a temporary Leela. I think you already understand these things. You already appreciate. I'm just sharing with you what I've heard from my Gurudev. Acyuta Prabhu.
Just move your computer down or up, down a little. Yeah, so we get your chin. We just get your mouth. Okay, that's better. Thank you.
I'm holding my phone in my hand. Yeah.
Oh, okay. You need to get. Yes, that's not so good.
I need to get a what do you call a tripod? Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Maybe when Jivan Mukta and I come
worry
to visit
about
you,
that. Don't worry. Let's stay with the topic. Acyutananda Prabhu.
a tripod. Yes.
Don't worry. Acyutananda Prabhu, you have something.
Acyutananda Uvacha.
No, just okay. That verse in Brahma Samhita, is that Ramadi Murti Chukalanime?
Yes. 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 Yes.
That one. Okay.
Yes.
Why did Guru Maharaj tell them to make one half of the spiritual sky reddish? But those are cannot be told.
I did that personally. I made that diagram,
Wow.
and my Gurudev just let me go at it. And I conceived when I was making it that I was trying to describe all the manifestations directly from Sri Radhika, which is like Harinamananda, Brahmananda, Jadananda, all of these different aspects coming from Sri Radhika. And I wanted to make it clear that Baladev had a different area of creation of the jivas directly, the Brijbasi jivas, as well as the Vaikuntha jivas, as well as the Bada jivas in this world. So I wanted to make that distinction.
Ah.
Probably if I did it again, I would make some changes to it. My Gurudev, he was just allowing me to sort of do it. The only thing that my Gurudev commented on was to put the Saptarishis in there. This was the only thing that he actually directly told me to do, to put this. So we took it back and we changed it to include the Saptarishis. But other than that, he was very satisfied with that. But I'm sure if we took the microscopes out, we could find some areas where we could tweak, today, if I wanted to redo it. Although I don't know whether I could again. Now there's 54 layers in Photoshop on it, and it requires, a good techie to do it, who's no longer with us in doing that. So, but I'm open to any correction. What have you got there? What does that say on your T-shirt?
This was the seminar, a 5-day Harikatha in Miami that was done by Bhagavad Maharaj's son Nishinga. There's so many Nishingas, we call him Nash Nishinga. He's Nash. And I spoke on, I was asked to, it started on Akshay Tritiya. So I hope that and actually, since that was also a Zoom, and ever since then, I've been getting Zoom invitations.
Been zooming around.
Zooming around,
Started on
very
Akshay
nice.
Tritiya. You start something on Akshay Tritiya, don't stop. So
Very nice.
I have a question.
There's a
I have a
question.
question. Yes. So, Tridandi Maharaj, you were saying, and Acyutananda Prabhu seemed to confirm, or please correct me if I'm not understanding properly, but you made the statement that Baladev is the first expansion from Srimati Radharani, but this is not found in Prabhupada's books. Is that correct?
No, I didn't say it like that. He's manifesting.
Okay.
We can terminate. I mean, words are very tough to kind of like handle, but the energy of Baladev is fueled through Krishna's Swarup Shakti. Try and understand it deeply. Krishna's energy is manifested as Swarup Shakti. That's the meaning of Swarup Shakti. Swarup Shakti means Krishna's energy. So everything in existence that is going to manifest after that has its ultimate origin in Srimati Radhika.
Okay.
And then so from that energy of Sri Radhika, Baladev is manifesting to represent the Sandhini Shakti, the existence potency that has to be in place. And Shivji is manifesting. I am going to say now that I don't understand this. I'm not a scholar at all. I'm a relisher of the topics of Vrindavan and of Goradam. But I'm not a scholar. I'm afraid to go into that world, quite frankly. So forgive me, I don't have all the sort of backups that you might need as the praman for this, but this is how my Gurudev has presented it on numerous occasions, that from the right side, Gopeshwar Mahadev is manifesting. And Baladev is the first manifestation, we can say, from Swarup Shakti, or you can say from Krishna, because it's coming through Krishna. It's Krishna's energy. So it's not incorrect. When you take the microscope out to these things, not a single word that Prabhupada has said would be contended with. Not a single syllable that he said is contended with. Everything is 1,000,000% in place Everything is within Prabhupada's books also. It's
I'm
all
only
there.
asking
Everything
you-
is there.
I get it. I'm only asking because if I were to repeat such a thing to someone, I may get the response, where does it say that in Prabhupada's books? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So don't repeat it to anyone.
No,
There's no problem with sitting with the conception that Baladeva is the first manifestation, because that's what Brahma Samhita is stating clearly.
Right.
So leave it there. Just leave it there.
Maharaj,
There's no need to go further.
the Gopishwar Mahadev expands from Baladev?
No, from Krishna.
From Krishna.
Yes,
Okay.
from his right-hand side.
Okay.
From his right-hand side. I don't think it's such a monumental point in a sense, but it's just a fact. That's all that you can add to your understanding of the whole experience. But Baladev is the first man. I mean, it's not going to change your degree of devotion to Radha and Krishna by understanding this sort of, or hearing this sort of topic, because that has to always be maintained as the principle in our inquiry. What is going to increase my attraction to Krishna in this brief birth that I'm experiencing? Where is Bhakti Devi going to manifest by understanding this? What I get from this is that my devotion towards Sri Radhika is enhanced by appreciating this. And my Gurudev's devotion to Radhika was so profound and complete, as is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's, as is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's, certainly as is Srila Rupa Goswami's, as are all the Goswamis. So this is a deeper sort of appreciation where we can fully immerse ourselves in wanting to take shelter of Srimati Radhika. Sri Radhika is the focus, and this particular explanation or tattva that my Gurudev explains, it puts that in perspective very clearly, that I'm appreciating that Radhika is the manifestation of everything in existence in her desire to completely please Krishna. She only wants Aradhanam. She's the greatest devotee. She wants to please Krishna. So at the same time, Baladev Prabhu is manifesting from Krishna's energy to create all the material world. So it's not incorrect. So we don't have to present and disturb devotees' minds if they're not kind of like ready for that. There's no need. My Gurudev was like pushing our consciousnesses over the brink when he was traveling around. I was with him for 20 years, and he was trying to cultivate us away from the conception that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. Understand that. That's the same vision that Uddhav has. That's the same vision that all the Dwarkavasis have, all the Mathuravasis have on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And this is the conception that our beloved Prabhupada imparted in our hearts, because we had to have that platform first. We didn't even know who God was before Srila Prabhupada came. So first of all, the Lord had to be introduced fully in his magnificence, in his opulence. And then later on, after 20 or 30 years of absorbing ourselves in the Harinam Mahamantra, the teachings of Rupa Goswami, etc., then we can start to appreciate the significance of Vrindavan and the Brijbasis, and fundamentally what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu specifically has come to give. Bhakti Ras, Braja Prem. This is what he's specific. And what does Braja Prem revolve around? It revolves around Srimati Radhika. So at this point,
Leela, sorry, go on.
So at this point, it's not an easy transition, because in our helpless conditioned state, we pray. I'm talking about taking all the false ego facade away and just coming down to our core cry daily for Krishna's mercy. Are we crying for Krishna's mercy, or are we crying for Mahaprabhu's mercy? Are we crying for Radhika's mercy? Understand? It's like evolution of consciousness. I think it's quite a dramatic shift, but it's very comfortable in the sense because Srimati Radhika is the greatest devotee of Krishna. So I'm not going anywhere separate here. You understand? I'm just highlighting. Acyutananda Prabhu, I have to look at your face while I'm speaking. Yeah. You understand these topics. You understand these topics, you know, how to craft it.
Nichalila Devi Dasi has
Prabhupada-
asked, how do we... Sorry.
Should I say? You know, when I was building Prabhupada's kuti, the Muslims had a nickname for me, Ak Kathalok. He says things once. He's not going to say them again. One time. Ak Kathalok. Any Ak Kathalok. And he said,
Okay.
but
Yes.
Shamarani will also back me up. But Prabhupada was always talking, what I heard, Prabhupada was always talking Gopi Baba.
Yes.
But
yes.
Yeah. But then he saw, and similarly, what we were talking about about the fall of bodies, you know.
I don't think we even have to go there, Prabhu, because it's like a dead topic, really and truly. What you revealed to me the other day about the nature at that time of those 11 gurus made so much sense.
After some time, Prabhupada, you know, it came down into less. If you're still asking, how did we fall, or did we fall? Then Prabhupada knows you haven't read the books. And there are many statements and videos that I saw where Prabhupada said, are you reading my books or you know how to sell? So some of these answers that come since 1972 on, he was very upset that the devotees weren't studying the books.
I think, can I just offer some thought here?
But there was a hippie girl. I'll tell you about Gopi Baba. And the thing is, the great thing that Narayan Maharaj gave it, Yavat Asrai Briti of the Gopi Baba, of the Manjari Baba, because I always thought that I would be the 1,000,000th, 1,109th Gopi in the Rasli. No, the highest thing a jiva can attain is the Manjaris who serve in vicariously.
And you have to qualify that, Prabhu. Let me just interject here to qualify what you've just said. You have, my Gurudev qualifies it in his commentary on Vilap Kusumbanjali to Giriraj Maharaj and Tumal and the GBC men at that time very clearly, because they are insisting, asking this question again and again and again. You cannot be a Gopi unless you have a Gopi Saki. So who is the Gopi Saki that you're getting that greed from to become a Gopi? And when we consider the nature of the Gopis, it's called Sambhog Ichamai. That means they have the qualification to actually hold Krishna, to dance with Krishna, to have a relationship with Krishna. They are manifesting directly from Sri Radhika. Those Sambhog Ichamai. Now the Manjaris, we are called Tat Bhav Ichamai. And this was the specific jewel that Mahaprabhu has come to give. Anapita chirim chirat kuruna vartinokalo samarvaitam unnata ujvala rasam swa bhakti shriyam. Yes, in this verse by Rupa Goswami, he's describing what is that bhakti shriyam? What is the beauty of Krishna's own bhakti? Krishna's own bhakti is Srimati Radhika. And the beauty of her bhakti are the Manjaris. And this specifically, what Rupa Goswami has spoken, is what Mahaprabhu has come to taste himself, Unnata Ujvala Ras. He's come to taste himself that exalted prem between himself and Radhika and the gopis. But he's come to give us, the jiva, something even more remarkable in a sense, service to this Unnata Ujvala Ras. And that service mood is in the form of a manjari. That is our gift from Mahaprabhu.
We have a
I,
question
it came
here
to me,
from our.
I said it three. I just saw this Indiana Charger in the Gaur Govinda Archana Padati, that for a manjari is serving his yuta, his saki above his upline, and even if Krishna comes to play with you, you don't let it, unless you have the permission. You do not engage in loving affairs with Krishna, but you help him to
Yes.
get to, you see, like that.
Yes, always. Always.
May I ask a
Sorry.
question on behalf of?
Oh, so Goda, you wanted to say?
Yes, so Nitya Leela Devi Dasi, all the way from Pakistan, has asked, how do we relate these facts with the third chapter creation, or maybe she means third canto creation of universe in Bhagavatam? My point is, manifestation of creation is entirely different as per the Bhagavatam third chapter, I think she means third canto, as Lord Mahadev being originated from forehead of Lord Brahma rather than from Krishna.
That's Rudra. I already explained that.
She came in late.
There's four aspects of manifestations of Shivji. There's Gopishwar Mahadev originally, and then there's Sadashiva within the spiritual world, and then there's Shambhu, who's empowered to carry the glance, the phallic symbol that we worship in the Shiva Lingam. He's empowered to carry that glance into his wife Durga Ma, into her embryo. It's called the Adara Shakti. So that is Shambhu. And then there is Rudradev, who's manifesting out of Lord Brahma's anger with his four eldest sons, the Kumaras, who refuse to populate the planets, to become progenitors, because they are aspects of Gyan, Vairagya, Yoga, etc. This is who the four Kumaras embody. So they didn't want to take up the Grihastha ashram, so to speak, and propagate the planets. So this was an offense, actually, against Lord Brahma. He became very angry. You remember, it's described in the third canto. And he's trying to contain his anger. I think it's in about the 12th chapter. And he's trying to contain his anger. But from his anger, then this little blue boy comes from between his eyes. This is Rudradev. This is the fourth manifestation or expansion of Sadashiva. Sada means eternal. So from Sadashiva, like that. Okay, is that clear?
Leela, does that answer your question?
Thank you very much.
Shiva Tattva is a very simple tattva when you appreciate that one point that I mentioned about Swamsa, Bhav, Abbas. Swamsa are those souls who are manifesting directly from the body of Krishna, directly, his avatars, Balaram, etc. I already said this. And Shivji doesn't have that conception of sitting in his own Godhead. I'm just repeating myself now for Nitya Leela there. So Shiv Tattva is not so complex when you realize this one connecting link, so to speak. Sorry, I have to move around my house at the moment to do something. I've been sitting waiting to get on this call for the last hour and a half. Actually.
Can you say something about where you're living? This is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's house that you're living beside, Godrun Dvip.
Well, I think you know these sorts of things. Let the devotees ask questions about the topics that we're talking about.
Yes.
And I really want to say one thing that Bhakti Rakshak Sri Ramar said about Manjari, Vavan, and Saki. And I'll say it again because you weren't here, but some communist politician came to Sri Maharaj. You know, in India, property, it can be put in the name of the deities. So he said, yeah, this communist told Sri Maharaj, yeah, a joint couple, husband and wife, cannot jointly own property. So Sri Maharaj said, they're not married. So So he
Yes.
said, it is kind of easy to understand that there's God the Father. We can understand that there's God the husband and a Mrs. God. He said, Mrs. God. But God's mistress, God's secret, private mistress, that's very
Yes.
difficult to understand.
Yes.
So,
Yes. That's the heart of it, Prabhu. This is
Funny.
exactly why Krishna has to manifest himself as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is exactly the reason why Mahaprabhu manifests. I said this last time I was speaking with you all. It's such a delicate, sensitive place of the heart, especially in Paka Vaishnavas in India, to try and put this conception that Krishna dances with other men's wives. It's not a small thing at all. It's a very delicate, sensitive thing.
And of course, we're looking at it from our mundane, conditioned perspective.
Reality perspective.
Absolutely,
Well, we are mundane and conditioned, and that's where Krishna wants to put these conceptions to bring us out of that mundanity. And it's like almost a great, it's a risk for us, because what happens when you go more deeply into this world of rasa or rag is that the false ego itself has to be left behind. You can't carry that same conception into that world of contemplation on these topics. This is described in Jaiva Dharma very clearly. So we should follow the injunctions that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati gave us and not discuss these topics until we are bold enough to actually, and confident enough and loving enough of the spiritual conception to actually go across these prohibitions that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati has laid out for us. They all should be there until we actually have the courage, so to speak. And a Mahabhagavat like Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj can give us that confidence to actually go across, because he spoke with us so much about these topics. He made it so real to us that we got the confidence. Yes, I'm going to go that route. I'm going to leave behind my material false conception of myself.
Society, my friends.
What was that?
There's Narayan Maharaj really opened this up, which we thought we'd never be able to enter. It's similar to a slogan from the National Rifle Association. If guns are outlawed, only outlaws will have guns. So similarly, if we're not allowed to enter into Vilap Kushmanjali and Ujjwal Nilamani, and only the Sahajis will say, we have it. We're more advanced than you.
Yes, yes. What did Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati say? He said, don't leave the Rasa Leela in the hands of the Sahajiyas. It is the Gaudiya's property. It is our property. But we have to become qualified for that. Yes. 16 rounds is not enough. 16 rounds is not indicative of much enthusiasm, really. Prabhupada wanted to give us 64 rounds to begin with. He wanted everyone to do that. And then he reduced to 32. Then he came down, all right, 16. But sometimes today, people are struggling to even do that. And then they want to talk about these topics. That's ridiculous.
This is a reminder. Drink water. This is a reminder.
See, Karani?
There's a question. It's hard to hear, though.
How many rounds was Narayan Maharaj recommending?
He was inspiring us to chant as much as we could. He didn't make any rules and regulations in that sense. Rules means someone who's going to enforce the rules. It means like a controlling type of mentality. Where does controlling mentality have its root? It's in a demonic conception. It's not a Devic conception of controlling anything. The Devas, they want to empower and give love. The demons, contrary to that, want to control with fear. We should see this distinction. It's not a big rocket science thing.
How does the Manu Samhita play in that?
How does Brahma Samhita play in that?
How does Manu Samhita fit in that?
Oh, Manu Samhita. Manu Samhita, yes. He imparts the injunctions for man, just like Prabhupada did, in such a loving way that you want to do it. You feel eager to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning because you know this is going to please your spiritual master. You feel eager to perform your seva, running on the street, distributing books all day long. You feel eager to do it, to please him. You weren't told that you had, when the Western influence came in with the sort of Western managers, etc., because of their lack of purification, then more of this kind of mood entered. But Prabhupada would always purify it out. He would always purify this as much as possible. And we have to confront with ourselves, where is this more purified state of consciousness within myself also, where I'm not trying to run around and dictate to everyone.
I want to say this.
Doesn't work. Go ahead, Acyutananda.
Yeah, I said this to the others before you came on this week, but I said, well, it would have been better if God gave Moses the 10 suggestions.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be bhakti. That would be bhakti. You know what the last words of the Old Testament are? Lest I smite the earth with a curse. See? So that's, fear. And I say this when I did colleges. I said, I think the only place where Krishna says at the end of Bhagavad Gita, 1863, that's not a year, 18th chapter, 63rd verse, deliberate over what I've told you and do as you wish.
Yes, yes. It has to come from the heart. This comes back to Acyutananda, what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is talking about in Jiva Tattva constantly, almost every answer Babaji gives, that Jiva has his inherent independence. He has his independence to make his own decision. That has to be inspired in the individual. If you're trying to blanket everyone with restriction and rules and so on, it's very helpful for a newer person. No doubt, the institutional atmosphere can be very conducive, but when you reach a certain age of maturity, those impositions don't quite sit comfortably for you. And you have to, what did Prabhupada say right at the beginning? At the very beginning, you know better than me. This is not an imposition on the, on the mind. This is not an imposition on the artificial imposition. Yes, it's not an artificial imposition on it. To love anybody, really, not just like a robot, but in reality, with the full heart feeling, it has to be your independent choice to do that. No other way. It's a sensitive area, it's not going to just happen in a moment. We need to do the sadhana to get the mercy, the weight of the soberness. I think what sadhana does to the consciousness, like chanting significantly, it makes us sober. Isn't this right, Acyutananda Prabhu? It makes us stop running around seeking some intoxication from the material world in any fashion. Making some plan for some holiday, for some this, for some that. All these plans for material enjoyment. This is the intoxication we're trying to purify ourselves from.
Okay.
Krishna consciousness is not an artificial imposition on the mind. This consciousness is the original energy of the living entity.
Oh, beautiful. That's very beautiful. That's so beautiful, Gaura. Prabhupada is such a genius. He blows my consciousness daily with the words that he says. Every day, I'm looking at Bhagavad Gita, every single day.
When we hear that,
my heart melts with his ecstasies, his purports, his commentaries.
Well,
there's no difference here. I wish that the Gaudiyas could unite. We need unification at this time. We need it desperately. You need it within your own group of ISKCON. We need it within our own Sangha of the Gaudiya, and we need it collectively between the two of us, between all of us.
Yes.
But
Well, I think
what's the
what's
touchstone
toxic,
of its possibility? What's the touchstone of it actually happening?
I'm not sure we're going to see it in our lifetimes unless Krishna makes a miracle.
Well,
And I do believe that Krishna can create a miracle.
Srila Gurudev
And I-
was asked that question.
And what did he say?
He said, yes, the Gaudiya missions will unite. And they said, really? When will it happen? He said, 2 or 3 generations. They said,
There
well,
you
how
go.
is this possible? He said, intermarriage.
Huh.
Well, that's nice. That's nice. Because you meet the young, my son, he's like 35 years old. He's always in the ISKCON temple doing kirtans, etc. And his relationship with and he spent 10 years of his life directly with Srila Gurudev. So he's carrying that impression also. But amongst the second generation, third generation, they don't even talk about these topics. They just love each other and perform their, activities together. It's only the older generation that are kind of like either trying to get out of the control or trying to assert their control. It seems like one way or the other. There shouldn't be any type. There should be affection. Where is the affection? Acyuta.
well, here I go again. They teach, and this confused some children here came, and they came back. Fortunately, their parents were better off, influenced by Narayan Maharaj, and they came back from first grade from an ISKCON school, and they said the teacher told us that we fell from Vaikuntha. We
Oh
were
my
offering, we were offering, this is children. Now understand, in Jaiva Dharma, this is a question asked by an Uttamadhikari Mahabhagavat Paramhansa, by also another highly advanced devotee. It's not taught to kindergarten children that one time we were bringing a flower to Krishna, and then we said, why should Krishna have it? I want it myself. That's just, and they come home and they say, Mommy, what do I say? Daddy, what do I? This is going on. And another thing that scares me is, the Mormons have the most preposterous story that Jesus resurrected in Jerusalem and landed in America and preached in America. But they have thousands. They have Dhanam Janam Sundari. They have thousands of buildings and followers by the million, a couple of million, and money and a great choir. But look
They have
how
$100 billion.
this ridiculous opposite Danta thing is huge. So that worries me.
Can I just say something here about this
Yeah.
topic? That I believe only in the last 24 hours, since hearing Acyutananda's explanation of how this fall from Vaikuntha originated, I really got it, what you said. And finally, after so many years of wondering how it even came into existence, if this misconception, like you said the other day, could be purified and dismantled, but that would mean that those seniors would have to come forward and acknowledge, yes, we've actually lied to you for 40 years. That's not going to be possible. So that's how you can get the time frame of when this unity could manifest, because they're not going to be able to do it. We're going to have to wait for them to pass on. But I don't think that's going to be possible. In an older body, your pride becomes more acute about our various imagined material successes. This is what happens in life. It's this, the science of our lives, isn't it? It's not. And when you're a young boy, you can just run. What can I do? What can I do? But when you're older man, it's kind of like gets a little different. But I do believe that what Achyuta Prabhu Ananda was saying, that if you can purify that misconception,
I tried to tell them a way to get them off the hook. I said, you can tell them this Sakha Chandra Nyaya. Okay, we said that in the beginning for the beginners. but now we can tell you, but it's not going on.
Unless they're sincere and want to be purified themselves,
Well,
and they want Shuddha Bhakti themselves in their heart, then it'll happen. But if they're not wanting that, how can sincerity and truth raise its flag? It cannot. All it can do is Krishna has to arrange for them to get mud in their face somehow or other and be exposed, like all the demons on the stage in Kali Yuga today are being exposed, isn't it? We're seeing it in the macrocosm, right? In the world that we live in, they're being exposed.
Either you're sectarian, or you're non-sectarian.
Who's saying that?
Tarun.
Tarun Krishna.
Either you're sectarian or you're non-sectarian. That's simple.
Explain what you're saying.
Can you accept a Vaishnava of a different group? Can you let him give class? Can you, it's that simple. Kanishta consciousness, I belong to a particular organization. The Madhyamadikari, I can accept any Vaishnava from any group.
It's not easy, is it?
Well, all I know is, our reading Prabhupada's books, our appreciation of like you said, Maharaj, Prabhupada's ecstasies, and our discussion. I have no conception of, and I really, really don't care who is coming from which group and who's their guru. And aside from the fact that your Guru Maharaj has been so inspirational to you, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And obviously through your being so inspired, it's inspiring me. And, that Shakti kind of comes through and comes down through that disciplic succession. But frankly, I it's like, who cares? Who cares? It's like we're reading, we're inspiring each other in this Krishna Katha, learning more about Krishna and his glories and his devotees. I mean, it's such a terrible state of mind to be in, where we would refuse to listen to a devotee because they're from a so-called different line. I mean, it's ridiculous.
I think that the hoax, so to speak, has to be exposed clearly. As I was thinking that when Krishna first leaves the planet 5,000 years ago, you'll remember in that chapter in the first canto, Yudhisthira Maharaj, he's waiting for Arjuna to return. And he's seeing all these inauspicious omens. The very second Krishna left the planet, Kali Maharaj entered. The very second.
Right.
I believe that the very second our Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada left, Kali Maharaj entered into contaminating the minds of those apparent leaders at the time. And from that very moment, you older devotees know better than me how you are marginalized by the society, etc. How, and control and fear were the two weapons that Kali Maharaj was using. So it's very simple.
We were told we were envious if we did not honor them on the same level as Prabhupada.
Yeah. Well, that's abhorrent.
There's a very refreshing, younger generation of devotees coming up. I can think of this popular I think it's a radio program podcast called the Namaras podcast, and it's all their generation. And there was a very interesting set of questions posed on there recently by this younger generation, saying that we actually, I'm sort of quoting them, we don't want to inherit these schisms that existed in the history. And they were posing these questions to each other as to how to not inherit all this. So I thought that was actually quite promising.
Beautiful. I'm very, very hopeful.
From time to time, I get really great hope. I saw some 10, 12-year-old kids here. There's about 2,000 devotees here. A lot of children. And the boys would say, come on to another friend. Come on, let's go. He says, wait, I have to finish my round. Mr. Shetty. 10 years old.
It's nice. Wow. Inspiring. inspiring. Yes, I've had many examples of that. I've seen their nishta, their dedication. Many of them don't have to preach. They're already devotees. We have to preach to convince ourselves to be devotees. That's part of why we preach. They don't have to preach. They're already devotees. My son, he's been a devotee, of course, since birth. Never eaten meat in his life. He's sitting with people in an airport and he's just wearing pants and a shirt. And that two younger devotees are preaching to him about being a vegetarian. And then he says, after about 15, 20 minutes of them doing this, he just lets them go. He finally says, you know what? I've never eaten meat in my life. I mean, like, you know, it's like they don't need to preach like we had to preach.
Like
we
that.
had to cut through stone into this world. And I personally think you have all done a great job. You have really created the platform. There was no Vaishnavism in the Western world 50 years ago, none whatsoever, basically. And look at its influence now by Prabhupada's efforts and his followers. What have they put into the Western world? Phenomenal. Now, let it come to another point. Let it come to another level of these older devotees questioning more closely. Yes, I've been chanting for 40 years, but the lights haven't gone on. My Swarup is not revealed. I don't know my Ekadash Bhavs. I don't know, my direction towards Srimati Radhika. These kind of questions, let them arise freely in the heart and see if answers manifest
But
from different quarters.
What do you
who's
think of
preventing that?
Huh?
Don't never bloop down, bloop up.
Who's preventing these realizations from manifesting from within the heart? I don't. Who's
It's our own independence, isn't it? It's our own choice.
But it's not the
Always.
That's right. It's us. It's us. We bear a personal responsibility, just like anyone could join this sangha right here. Anyone.
Right.
You
Right.
have to make the choice in the end. Prabhupada has said that many times. We have to fly our own plane. We have to choose our association.
I so much resonate with that.
We have
Yeah.
to see who inspires us. We have to see who takes us into that mundane, platform where it's just such an awful thing. We think sometimes that it's somehow it's spirituality or it's Krishna consciousness when we're criticizing or we're kind of get involved in the managerial issues. I mean, that's why a few weeks back, I said, we have to consider ourselves really, really fortunate that we don't have to deal with all that stuff. You have to be, just like you were saying about certain level of advancement, you'd have to be pretty advanced to have to deal with management of an institution,
Yeah.
And we don't have to do that.
Yeah.
But it's
we don't. Yeah. Always our independence. It always comes back to that, and we've independently picked up Prabhupada's instructions to preach in the world from our heart, from the core of our heart. We've run with that because he impregnated us with that. But those other followers who didn't get that same Shakti, that same message from Prabhupada, and I see it in other sanghas, in the other Gaudiya Maths, they're not impregnated with a preaching bhav or mood at all. They just have their 3 rotis every day, they perform the festivals and so on and so on. But this preaching that Prabhupada really wanted, we have to fine tune it and figure out now, today, with our good brains, which is the best route to go to inspire, I believe, personally, the older devotees. I think the younger generation, they're already there. They're already going to get everything together. They're okay. I am, like my Gurudev, also very concerned with the welfare of those devotees who are marginalized by those demonic tendencies that manifested from the leaders. And I think it really hurt a lot of older devotees in the world. And my Gurudev felt the same thing. He very much wanted to strengthen their nishta. He wanted to encourage them. So I like to spend more of my time with the older devotees, quite frankly, and discussing, churning these truths that we've lived with for so many years. And how can we personally become more enlivened,
You have to study the art. You have to study the argument. There's no substitute for studying the arguments. It's not automatic that you become non-sectarian. You may be non-sectarian yourself, when you come across arguments. You have to know how to explain things.
I think I said last time, if you remember, when I was talking with you all, by your mercy, that I think a lot depends on our personal practices and our personal developments to influence those who we wish to influence around us. Just like Prabhupada, Acyutananda Prabhu was explaining, he would come to these religionists and just by his presence, that was enough to convince them of so many truths. So this is our personal responsibility and dedication to Srila Prabhupada, to my Gurudev, to our Guru Vargya, is to come up at this point in history, at this point in time, to take our power, which we have been gifted, and to encourage each other, in our own personal developments. That means our chanting principally. That means our practices, etc., are engendering respect for all persons, regardless of who. I mean, Mahaprabhu, he would give to the Harijans, right? He was practically disregarding at some points the Brahmanas, apparently. So we've got the whole history blueprint there. How to go forward now with love, in fearless devotion.
The first two words of Chaitanya Charitamrita, right there. To begin the Chaitanya Charitamrita, you must be on the Madhyama level.
So my Gurudev constantly said this: come up to the Madhyam. Don't linger in the Kanishta area. Come up to the Madhyam now. That means diligently practicing. That means genuinely imbibing that enthusiastic greed for entering into the association of the Nityasiddha Parikas. Last time I was here, Acyutananda was explaining the process, going in Bhaumalila and then taking birth in Bhaumalila, associating with the Nityasiddhas. It does all depend on association. So much there depends on association. And this technological age makes it so simple. I mean, I'm here in Navadvip and I'm talking to you, most of you in America. It's remarkable. It's amazing how we've got this fortune to connect with each other. And I feel that I am connecting with you to some degree.
I found that Indra Prabhu was very much urging the devotees to come up, to this platform. He took a lot of flack for it, but his lectures are actually really wonderful. He's just so encouraging to, kind of come up to these higher platforms and to have, he used the word that you used actually, which was courage, that you just can't sort of swim about being a kanista eternally. And one shouldn't be scared at this point to really dive in.
Because otherwise, in our next birth, we'll have to confront the same obstacles again.
Exactly.
It's not going to go away. We have to make the resolution.
Mm-hmm.
I spent so much time with Indra Prabhu. We spent a lot of time together.
Here I go again. If you think that you're a little avatar, you're not a kanishta, you're an avatar. This is my Leela. and I can't get through to them.
Yeah, not going to be.
Okay.
So therefore we have to.
Because that's the end of sadhana. How do they have this is what Narayan Maharaj said also when he heard about this. He said, well, then how do they have any sadhana bol? How do they have any strength to do sadhana when they think they're already high class?
This was how it was, Prabhu. I attended both of those meetings in Vrindavan with Satyinarayan Prabhu when those ISKCON gurus were trying to establish their bogus philosophy that we fell from Vaikuntha. They had two meetings. The first one, Satyinarayan completely defeated them. They went away practically with their tails between their legs, but then they had to reconstruct another sort of method. They came back 18 months later for another meeting in Vrindavan. This was about 91, 92. Jayadvaita Swami was there, Shivaram Swami was there, I believe. Anyway, all these personalities. And the second time in, again, Satyanarayan began to defeat their fallacious proposition that we fell from Vaikuntha. And then halfway through, just like you're saying now, Prabhu, he just threw his hands up in the air and said, forget it, you're not going to be convinced. I mean, they didn't want their sense gratification taken away from them under any circumstances. And that's what, capitulating to the idea that the jiva didn't fall from Vaikuntha, would actually deprive them of a certain sort of strange type of power that they thought they had.
Exclusivity.
Exclusive. Yes, yes. So he threw his arms up in the air. He could see. He's a very smart, enlightened soul, Satyanarayan Prabhu. And he could see, I'm confronting like a demon wall, so to speak. They can't hear because the material desires are just too. If this goes back to the point of our entering into this world from the Tatashta originally, Acyutananda Prabhu, did you get the article by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati that I attached to this audio also? Before acquiring material designation. It's just a single page. It's the most amazing link in the whole story of the jiva entering here, that Bhaktisiddhanta gives us an insight into how it was in the Tatashta.
Would you mind
Before
reading it?
It's a whole page. It's a whole page. You can forward it to the devotees. I sent it to you, Gaur. It was supposed to come to, yeah, I can say, but it's a mind-blowing explanation. I've never read in my life anything like that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati has expressed. We were in, he's saying, Shantaras within the Tatashta. Shantaras, not like the Shantaras of Vaikuntha or of a semblance in Braj, but a Shantaras of neutrality. We didn't want to go up and we didn't want to go down. This is how we were manifested in that Tatashtakan. We were very happy. We were in the Brahman, na sochati, na kanchati, no suffering, no lamentation. And then he describes how this question rises from the heart of that neutral jiva to enjoy. It just, because by nature we are Acyutananda, we are the same as Krishna, so we are enjoyers. If we're not finding enjoyment in the spiritual practice, we're going to look for it. We have to look for enjoyment in the material practice. It's a, you know, so he describes how this rises. And at that time, there's an influence of Krishna on one side, and there's the glitter of the material energy on the other. And we, sitting here today, chose to go towards Maya. And he describes it very, very graphically. It's a very beautiful explanation. So I'm sorry you haven't already got that, but it's a fascinating article.
What if we had decided, what if we had made another decision? What's the process then that takes place in the
I've never read that because I presume, I understand that they just go in Jaiva Dharma, those souls just go back into the spiritual world, like Kumar.
They don't ever from that.
No, they don't act. No, they don't touch the material energy. They go immediately from the Tatashta. Understand, those in the Tatashta that are attracted to Maya Devi, they enter the body of Mahavishnu, all of them. It's only from the body of Mahavishnu, all of those jivas coming from Mahavishnu, they are all destined for these material worlds. But before that, in the Tatashta, Tatashta is a conception of consciousness. It's not a geographical location. But in that conception, we go directly to the spiritual world. And I have never read a description of how those jivas are placed, either within Vaikuntha or within Goloka Vrindavan or Dwarka or Ayodhya, which was your question.
Inherent. It's inherent within the jiva.
Yes, it is inherent. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that brings up,
Like
we
a
can
seed.
discuss this another time we can discuss this, because there is a very good devotees, a very strong, a strong proponent of no. You were saying Satya Narayan does,
Mhm.
right? It sounded like
Yes.
Satya.
Yeah.
Satya
No,
Narayan.
Satya.
He is now known as Babaji.
Yes.
And he
Yes.
has the Jiva
Right.
Correct.
Institute, which I get their emails. They're terrific. And he composed the Not Even the Leaves Fall book. And
That's
also
right.
here's Pundarik Vijayanidhi. Prabhu also contributed. But
Yes.
I want to say there's also an Uttama Sloka has a great article describing all the different quotes. Because like I said, Prabhupada said, don't argue and debate this. So I never bothered to build up any arsenal of to defend this point. But also, though, there's a group, one of them is, oh dear, Siddhanti Maharaj is there, is the rasa, or the relationship, inherent, or is it acquired, or is it given by a guru? And there's a big debate going on about that.
I'm right in the middle of
But
it. I know.
Isn't that the main difference between Lalit Prasad Thakur, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's brother, who said that it's given with Siddha Pranali, and that of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta?
Actually, Gora, it's both. The answer is actually both. Can be reconciled very easily. We are by nature an eternal servant of Krishna, Jivera Sarupoi Krishnera Nityadas. So that is inherent within us, but the actual nature and flavor of how we're going to perform our services, that may depend on the type of association we actually come in contact with according to our various individual desires. So today, I'm not supposed to say what I just said because I'm being condemned by our own group for saying that. It's all they consider that's contrary to what my Gurudev has said, but it's actually not. If you think about it deeply enough, it's not. There's no contradiction here. I don't see any contradiction in this at all.
What is your name, Prabhu? What is your name?
Bhaktivedanta Tridandi Swami.
Oh, I am seeing.
Who's that? Who asked me that?
Tarun Krishnadas.
Oh, Tarun Krishnadas. Oh, there you are. Okay,
I have a
Tarunji.
question. So the idea that because one day Gurun Isha Bhaktan, the first two words of Chaitanya Charitamrita indicates it says you must have 3 or more gurus to understand his book. If I say I'm a Prabhupada, my heart and soul belongs to Prabhupada. But there's 7 Prabhupads. According to Prabhupada's books, there's 7 Prabhupads in his books. And also, is it correct or not? 3 or more, because it's plural. As in Sanskrit, there's singular, dual, and plural. So Bande Gurun means 3 or more. So we have to understand that even though my guru is a Shaktavesh avatar, many people will say, then still I have to be able to accept at least 2 other gurus to be qualified to understand Chaitanya Charitamrita. Is this idea correct or not?
Totally. And who are the other 2 gurus? Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Srila Gokishore Das Babaji, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Jagannath Das Babaji. Guru is one. Guru is one. It's not necessarily, I think you're thinking that there has to be like a tangible extra form of guru. My Gurudev used to explain on his Vyasa Puja day, he would never accept a whole stack of offerings to him personally. On Vyasa Puja day, my Gurudev would sit down and worship the 6 previous acharyas. This is the method in the Gaudiya Math. They worship the 6 previous acharyas to confirm in their followers, etc., that I am the embodiment of these 6 personalities. It's exactly like a current is coming from Mahaprabhu. And each personality within our glorious parampara is representing the other personalities prior to him. My Gurudev used to say all the time, same wine in new bottles, in different bottles. It's the same message. It's the same flavor. It's the same wine. So answering your question there, I would say that the other gurus are the previous acharyas, because they are all concurring what our Gurudev has said. It is supporting what he has said. Otherwise, he's divorced from the Guru Parampara. We're like a Christian sect that is just Prabhupada and nothing else. That's bogus. It's
That's
Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and all.
That's vertical. What about horizontal?
Shiksha.
Then you
Prabhupada-
seek those
Prabhupada brought-
those who are resonating the same message as your beloved Gurudev. Swajatiya Snigdha Ashraya, the same camp.
Dvaita Maharaj,
Yes.
Vivek Bharati, so many.
Yes,
Sridhar
Bhakti
Maharaj,
Vigyan Bharati. Yes,
Narayan
yes,
Maharaj,
all of these.
Keshav Maharaj.
Yes, all of those personalities. I worship them every single day. All of those
In
personalities you just mentioned.
Acyutananda?
In 1967, Prabhupada took me to Sridhar Maharaj's Vyas Puja. And he was sitting with garlands up to here. And then many people spoke. I think there were some ministers there also. I mean, government ministers. And then it was time for Sridhar Maharaj's speech. He said, "You may think that I'm sitting here out of conceit and letting you worship me and say all these things, and I'm just sitting here. I think even an animal in the zoo would feel embarrassed. But I'm not sitting here for my own sake. I'm sitting here on behalf of my Guru Maharaj, who could not attend today, having business on another dimension."
So profound, so profound. Why did Prabhupada accept the name Prabhupada? Why did he do that? I know emphatically why he did that. He took the lotus feet of his beloved Gurudev and placed them on his head forever. Every time he heard the name Prabhupada, who was he thinking about?
Prabhupada.
I have a friend in UK. His name's Gora Shakti. Maybe you know him, very old Prabhupada disciple. He was there during one Guru Puja, and the devotees were glorifying Srila Swami Maharaj in those days. They were glorifying Swami Maharaj. And then they began to chant this new introduction of Prabhupada. And while they were chanting Swami Maharaj, Prabhupada was looking down, sort of pensive, not particularly, quite neutral. But as soon as they chanted Prabhupada, immediately he was inspired. Immediately he sat up and a huge oceanic smile came on his face. And he was in ecstasy to hear the name of his beloved. They had taken everything, all the properties of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, they had hijacked, but they'd left the name. And Prabhupada, he took that as a mantle. He took that as a garland to inspire his preachings in the world. So when we think of Prabhupada, we think of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. We think, and who was Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's garland? Was Srila Gaurkishore Das Babaji. Gaurkishore Das Babaji, of course, is the embodiment of the teachings of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, etc., all the way through. We keep on fluidly running up and down this line. So I think that's the answer to Prabhu's question that he was saying, Tarunji's question. But also, like you're saying, horizontally, yes, these greatly elevated personalities, Srila Bhakti Rakshak, Sridhar Maharaj, etc. But where can we find that elevated current today? I ask you that question.
Wherever there is centripality instead of centrifugal, where things are unified automatically as opposed to scattered.
Where's that place? Where is that place? Tell me. I want to go there.
Are we
It's,
allowed to
well,
quote?
It's
Are we
north
allowed
of
to quote?
Toronto.
I think you have some flavor of it on this Zoom conference.
Guy.
I'm personally very inspired by seeing you all. And
Who are we allowed? Who are we allowed to quote? Anybody?
Well, it depends.
Could I just ask then, because I have businesses and I understand management to a certain extent. And so, you know, these devotees, in ISKCON are all very sincere devotees. I don't doubt that for a moment. They have this monumental responsibility of keeping this, you know, massive organization going. You know, they have wonderful preaching programs, they have temples, they have book distribution going on. You know, how would you suggest that they change that? I mean, they have to.
Nothing.
This should be maintained. It's a wonderful
Absolutely.
thing. It's incredible. And Prabhupada himself was instrumental in creating this behemoth of an organization.
It's a vehicle.
Yeah.
It's a vehicle, and it needs to be purified at the top. That's all.
But it needs
the vehicle
to be and grown and expanded.
Not expand. I mean, the individual needs to be educated more thoroughly on the particular topics that we've been touching on today. You know, without vidya, the avidya, the ignorance will always remain. But unless the leadership is actually inspired to make a pure step forward, then how can the rest of the preachers, so to speak, confidently go forward if the preachers aren't encouraged? I heard the other day that Prakasananda Swami was advocating for a more balanced kind of health view. I don't know much about this, by the way, but then he was immediately rejected from that post because he wasn't following some type of party line that we should vaccinate everybody, etc. I mean, that sort of sends a message, doesn't it? That we are the controllers of your lives and you can't move without us. And so that mentality has to be purified. And I don't know, you probably know better than me how that can be. My Gurudev tried for 20 years to make an inroads there. I think you have to just touch on the individuals more than anything.
Yeah, it's a personal thing.
It's a personal thing. It's the individual's appreciation. And each of us sitting here today, we all are thinking something a little bit different. Isn't it true? One may be speaking, but everyone is computing that in their own unique individual fashion. And when we start to respect that individual's place and that mood of respect becomes engendered amongst us, that is symptomatic. Respect and love are in the same bracket. So when that starts to show itself, you know, and you're seeing the leadership is respecting, like when you see Gaudiya Vaishnavas meet, it's like phenomenal. Acyutananda will attest to this, I'm quite sure, that, you know, they prostrate themselves and sometimes weep in front of each other, you know, in acknowledgement of each other's glories, so to speak. You know, so when will these types of demonstrations amongst the devotee community today begin to manifest themselves in our group, in the Western world? When will we weep when we meet another exalted Vaishnava?
Take up your cross and follow me, to quote someone pretty amazing.
Well, I once prayed that I would volunteer to be I'd be reborn as every Shakti or Vaishya avatar, except Jesus and Buddha.
Yeah.
I didn't want to play that part.
Yeah. We need to know
But
the nature of Vrindavan. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
Another question.
No,
I
let
heard-
the Acyutananda Prabhu finish first.
Doesn't finish.
Well, I think they have it wrong because of lack of knowledge. But Jesus in the garden, Golgotha, not the garden, they call it the agony in the garden, and he perspired drops of blood, and so did Lord Chaitanya in Mahabharata. So it was not an agony in the garden. What's the name of that garden?
Gethsemane.
Gethsemane.
Oh,
Gethsemane garden. I think he was in exit because he prays, do I have to go through this death, this terrible death? And then this Mahabhav came on him, persuade, and after that he felt nothing. just like Haridas Thakur did not feel any pain. But the Christian, they only know. Even the final word of crucifixion, he gave up the ghost.
Yes.
He being the gross body, giving up the son. No, it's the reverse. And lack of
Yes.
transcendental education. But
Yeah.
about preaching also, I wanted to say, Bhakti Dayit Madhav Maharaj, there was the chief minister in Bengal at that time in the 70s was Jyoti Bose, full on total communist. And Bhakti Dayit Madhav Maharaj sent him a telegram, congratulations on your election. Now imagine that, seeing you're a total communist atheist, and you're getting a telegram of congratulations from the Mahant of a Gaudiya temple. Similarly, Bhakti Dayit Maharaj and others, they would always invite some governor, minister, somebody. So I would like to see that also in ISKCON. Every time there's a Ratha Yatra, a conference, send an email, send it to some local people, the sheriff even, and you know what? They may show up, or they'll send a secretary. Talk to them. We could get some influence. You know what the Scientologists did? They bought one share of all the Fortune 500 companies, which gives you the right to attend the shareholder meetings.
Awesome.
So they walked in to all of these major companies, these billion dollar with a B, $billion companies, and said, yes, hello. And they distributed their literature amongst these big shots.
Mark.
That's how they got to celebrities and money. You know, Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, maybe I said this, he would go to the wealthy parks in Calcutta where upper class gentlemen would meet, and he'd bump into them. He'd walk right through them, and they go, excuse me, and then he'd start preaching to the higher level. What I've seen so much is they focus on going to the lowest hippies. They go to Burning Man places, they go to the rainbow things, and they find some tattooed hippies, and they try and recruit them, and sometimes they do recruit them. Or they put on rock and roll shows and they say they're making devotees. You know, I think Narayan Maharaj said, you don't make a devotee. The soul will be attracted to your message and come out. The devotion is already covered there, so it will come out. You don't make him. He's my man.
With Srila Narayan Maharaj, it was a little bit different focus. We were in Miami one time, in one devotee's house in a huge condominium there, very wealthy devotee. And in the lobby, Barack Obama was down there giving a conference. And the devotees had something influence in the whole affair of inviting him, etc., Obama. And they said to Gurudev, do you want to come down and meet Obama? Barack Obama's just downstairs. All he had to do was go down the stairs. My Gurudev said, no, if he wants to meet me, he can come upstairs and meet me. So my Gurudev kind of like took a different stance on this. He wasn't running to look for their, you know, approval, right. He was actually waiting for them to come to see him. And in India,
there's a same
quite
thing.
often these, yeah.
Same thing. There's a picture, famous picture maybe, of Prabhupada sitting in a chair about to be introduced to the President, Prime Minister of France.
Oh.
And Yogeshwar Prabhu was translator, he knew French very well. And the president comes in and Yogeshwar says, Prabhupada, you're supposed to stand up to meet the president. He said, I'm supposed to do what?
Yes.
He kept standing, and the president he wouldn't talk. The president wouldn't start talking to him until Prabhupada stood up. Prabhupada never stood up. So there was this tense moment there for a while. Finally, the president came over. It was just like Lord Chaitanya sitting in the footpath, but making Prakasananda, inviting him. He came to Mahaprabhu. So he put
both ways are interesting. Both ways are interesting. I don't think it's one way or the other way. Both ways, according to time, place, and circumstance, can be utilized. It's not that we should say this is right or that's right necessarily. In each instance, it was right. It was right for Barack Obama, not to meet Srila Gurudev. It was right for that French president to have that, very profound interaction with Prabhupada. In each instance, it's a very personal path that we're on. It has to be. That's why I feel that with our relationship on this particular Zoom meeting, I think this is very important. It was the first thing I thought about when I woke up this morning, to try to connect with all of you coming from where I'm coming from, where you've all been sitting for a long time, and how to make some harmony there. It could start there. It could start at that place and see where Krishna wants to take it to, because Krishna is the controller in all of these events. Whatever we may have these plans and so on, but Krishna will, arrange miraculous situations for us if we're sincerely wanting to actually distribute pure bhakti, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings. I can see some of you are getting tired. I think it's late there for you. I should drop off.
Almost 10 o'clock. I have
That's
a quick question here from Jagadananda Prabhu. He's a disciple of Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj in California. And he says, he's saying that we have to be confident to discuss Rasa Leela, but we don't have to be qualified.
It's the same thing. It comes at the same. If you feel confident, that means that you've developed some knowledge. How can you be confident without knowledge? It doesn't make sense. If you studied Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and the Bindu and different works of the Goswamis, then some appreciation of the ultimate reality of Mahaprabhu's gift, Raganuga Bhakti, Braja Prem, will begin to manifest in your heart. If you spent some time in the holy dhams, if you're associated with some senior personalities who are into that same topic, then by nature, your confidence will rise with your knowledge, with your adhikar. So it's both simultaneously. It's not one or the other. It's not black or white. Many times it's the gray in between.
Prabhupada told us, I froze. Prabhupada told us about the Ras Leela from the very, very beginning.
Yeah.
Those who were attracted got attracted. Those not, they didn't. It's
Remember.
again the 12th chapter of Gita, 8 through 13. If you can't do that, then we'll go to it. And if you can't chant 64 rounds, chant 16 rounds. And Prabhupada once said, if you can't chant 16 rounds, you're an animal. But if you can't do that, then work for me. If you can't do that, do what you do and still stay in the Varnashram thing and make do auspicious acts on Monday. But that was yesterday. See, it was shaved up here. That was Monday yesterday.
And what was the first book that Prabhupada gave us? Was the Krishna book.
Yeah, the Krishna book. He says that
That's
read
the
it
10th
in there.
canto.
No, it was this book that we were
Teachings of Lord Chaitanya.
Yeah,
Yes,
19
yes.
Yeah.
But simultaneously to that, yes, Chaitanya
Years
Mahaprabhu.
later.
Yes, without that entrance with Mahaprabhu and Nityananda, you can't access the 10th canto. But nevertheless, he gave us the 10th canto very, very early on.
Even
Very
in
early
that
on.
Krishna book, he says there that if you read this, he says even a person who doesn't know about any of this, he or she will
Attracted.
become purified just by
Yes,
reading
yes.
this. They will actually become purified of their mundane sex desire by reading
Yes.
it. He puts it
Yes.
cut and dried,
The
It's the attraction that purifies everything. It's
Yeah.
not our hard sadhana or practice at all that's going to purify it. It's ultimately our attraction to Krishna is going to carry us across all these boundaries. How much are you attracted to Krishna? That much you're attracted to Krishna genuinely, you're not going to care so much for the rules and regulations of, society and so on. You're going to, like Madhavendra Puripad, he says in one beautiful quote, he says, oh, I leave my morning ablutions there, or, I can't remember the exact quote. Acyutananda will remember.
I
But
think this
the-
is sufficient for me. He ends.
Yes,
the last one.
yes. So the attraction to Krishna is what we're trying to engender. And that was all my Guru Maharaj ever gave. He described Leela after Leela after Leela after Leela after Leela, just exactly as the devotee Mataji was saying. Nicole Wagner.
That's Nanda Patni Devi Dasi. And guess what? She was present as a 16-year-old schoolgirl in the front row as Prabhupada received the Krishna book from George Harrison's hand the day it was published.
Wow.
She was there.
I'm experiencing chills. My body is tingling right now. I think my hairs are standing on
And that's
end.
going to be in the next Prabhupada Memories that Siddhanta Prabhu is filming right now. He's there where
Wow.
she is.
Yeah,
Santa
we
Cruz,
just did
Kellam.
it. We just did the
In
interview.
the
Acyutananda Prabhu.
yeah, in the introduction, and I knew it too because Prabhupada said I did not want to pass away without giving my disciples the face of Krishna, so I've come out with Krishna books. Similarly, Adi 4, Krishna Das Kaviraj says, being very old, I shouldn't be saying these things, but I may not live long enough to put them in order.
Yes.
And so I'm
Yes.
giving the very intimate things now,
Yes.
but then he did live. He lived on.
Yes.
But, so that's what
Yes.
Charitamrita is out of sequence. But Prabhupada said the same thing, thinking that I might not live long enough to finish up to
Yes.
the 10th canto, because by that time he was only up to maybe the 6th or 8th canto. So he went ahead and did a Krishna book.
Acyutananda Prabhu, we were talking in the past about Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj going to Radha Kund and the Babajis and everyone there thinking that he was going to speak about all these intimate pastimes of Krishna. Instead, he sat down, started reading Ishopanishad.
Who was that?
I mean, Bhaktisiddhanta wasn't known, was Bhaktisiddhanta known to speak of Krishna's intimate pastimes?
Very little.
Upanishad means to come close.
Yes, no.
Isha means Ishvara, Krishna. Yeah. Who's closest to Krishna?
Radharani. That's fine. No, but he presented Ishopanishad.
So they could not understand that Ishopanishad is Radha Krishna.
But Bhaktisiddhanta isn't known to have discussed these pastimes so openly and so profusely.
But that's because he wanted to refute. He wanted to refute the mood of Sahajism. And
so if we're coming down,
he had to cut the jungles. My Gurudev explains that he wanted to give this, and he does speak at many times on Radhika being Swadhina Bharjika, etc. But he saw so many, jungles that needed to be purified. I mean, when he was living in Bengal, there was something like 13 Apasampradayas, very strongly prominent, and that all had to be cut. Yes, that all had to be purified. He didn't feel confident to give these higher guides or teachings. So Tripurari
Maharaj asked Sridhar Maharaj, did Bhaktisiddhanta ever discuss Madhurya Rasa or preach?
Yes.
Madhurya Rasa. And Sridhar Maharaj said, constantly, on what it was not.
Yes. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, that's good.
Constantly what?
And what it was not.
Yes. So Prabhu's, I have to leave because my phone is about to die.
We'll see you tomorrow morning, Maharaj, 8 o'clock our time, Jivan Mukta and I.
2 things.
Okay.
I was with Indra. We were visiting.
Thank you very much, Chudani Maharaj.
Just a minute. Someone's speaking about Indra.
Indra was willing to go see Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj. I'm a witness to that. And also, I have a question.
Indra Prabhu, he took the sannyas mantras from Srila Narayan Maharaj. I'm witness to that.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Yep.
I heard that when Jayapataka Swami was against allowing Narayan Maharaj into ISKCON, but Radhanath Swami was in favor. So there was a disagreement, and I guess Jayapataka Maharaj had more rank or more power. So what about, is it correct, that statement correct or not? About 15 years ago this happened. When
Probably,
Ramanuja was still present.
probably. I don't recollect that particular example, but there were so many examples when my Gurudev was not welcomed into the ISKCON temples or places. All he wanted to do was give what he'd promised Prabhupada to nourish and encourage the older devotees in particular. But he was not permitted to do that, just like Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was also banned in the end because he spoke about the reality of the jiva issue, and those controlling persons couldn't handle that.
May I
Prabhu's-
say
I-
something? May
have
I
to go
say
quick.
something?
It's Baba Tarini Devi Dasi. We can't see her, but she's speaking.
She has to go
Yes.
real quick because my phone is really about to
Very
die.
quickly, I recently read where they asked Srila Gurudev to join ISKCON, but in order to do so, he had to put forth the premise that the jiva fell from Vaikuntha and make it the authoritative policy.
Correct.
That was
Correct.
that's so they were saying, yes, you can become part of ISKCON
Us.
only if you make it the
Yes.
yeah.
Well,
bow to the
that was
misconception.
absurd to someone like a lion-like guru like Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj.
Yeah,
He used to
Srila-
say that my
Wait.
Gurudev was a lion and his Gurudev was a lion. I am in the family of lions. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he is also part of this family of lions. That's why Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, that's why Bhaktivedanta Swami didn't take sannyas from Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, because there was a different mood there.
Yeah.
He took the sannyas vesh from the lion camp, from Srila Bhakti Keshav Maharaj, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and my Gurudev. They were lions, and my Gurudev said into one occasion, like what Baba Tarini just explained, when they insulted him, he said they don't know that they have woken up the cub of a lion guru. And that's in 96 when he took the decision to actually travel to the Western world directly and just give without asking for anything in return, these jewels of Mahaprabhu's tattvas and appreciations, etc.
Also,
Srila Narayan Maharaj told me when I first met him, he said that before this happened, he went to the GBC and he said, I will come and preach. And this is how, because Srila Prabhupada asked me to do this. So he said, I will visit all of your temples and I will enthuse all of the devotees. He said, I will speak and work with the people who are initiating and I will help them become pure devotees. And he said, in return, though, I will not accept any disciples in the West. He said, in India, I'm already accepting, so I will not stop that. But they rejected this idea. I guess they made that statement that you previously said.
I heard that Srila
Kadamba
Prabhupada
Kama-
did not accept sannyas from Srila Sridhar Maharaj because he said, because he had lived with Prabhupada's family for 12 years, and he was very close. He didn't want the family to be angry. Or maybe it was Srila Sridhar Maharaj himself that didn't want the family members angry at him for giving.
Yeah, that's like an external reason.
Okay.
I heard that also.
Yeah.
But see the
Yeah,
current of the lion.
Prabhupada's wife could complain directly because she was familiar with Sridhar Maharaj. Keshav Maharaj was
Yes.
also a transcendental buffer.
Yes.
Buffer.
Puru,
Yes.
Puru,
it's also funny when they asked him that, oh, you have to preach fall from Vaikuntha. Oh, and you also have to chant 16 rounds a day.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Puru
So-
Maharaj,
Oh.
Puru Maharaj. Puru Prabhu was telling me one time that when Srila Prabhupada and Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj formed the Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti in 1940, that Sridhar Maharaj was their first president. And so he was asked about that, and he said, well, they have a different preaching mood. He said, when they preach, they're lions out on the chase. And so So his mood was slightly different than that. So he
All
gave
the
that-
acharyas mood, yeah, all the acharyas moods have different. I mean, that's their
Yes.
uniqueness.
Yeah.
Why should we expect them all to be the same? Of course, they're not the same. We are sometimes trying to fit into an institutional mentality of being like robots. That's how it was when we were younger. We were trying to knock ourselves out to be like everybody else, but then we restricted our personal growths,
right.
at that time. And then when we released our growths, then many of us left ISKCON. Whatever,
that's-
we couldn't
Mhm.
cope with the blanket control. Prabhus, I have to go. It's my battery's almost finished.
No
It's
Thank you so much.
Let's pay our
Thank you
bills.
so much.
See
So
everybody on
enlightening being
Monday.
with you.
Yeah.
Dandavats.
Monday.
Dandavats. Hare Krishna, Kripa Sindhu Vacha, Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnave Namo Namah.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Dhanyavads.
Jai Gaur
Jai.
Bhakti. Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Krishna, Hari Bol.
Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Swami Shri Bhakti Vedanta Prabhupada Tena Rubagyam Shirasidaya Shakyavesha Sarupine Hare Krishna Iti Mantrena Pachata Pachatayane Vispachaya Bhavayaya Dibikarnya Murte Sri Bhagavata Maruya Itagana Pradayane Gora Sri Rupa Siddhanta Saraswati Nishebine Radha Krishna Padamboja Pringaya Garavai Namo Devam Divyatanam Suchandabadanam Balakachelam Chitam Sambhadanandapuram Chadekavaranam Varagya Vidyam Divim Sri Siddhanta Nidim Subhati Lakitam Sustanandaram Vande Tam Subhadam Madhakasaranam Nishvaram Sridharam Sri Siddhanta Saraswati Divito Gaudiya Gaganvaya Bhato Bhanuri Baba Bhatagagane Yogora Sankirtana Maya Bharata Ningilo Dragatana Vijivaniman Krishna Prema Sudabhikana Sukam Padata Kundamade Namo Gora Kisharaya Bhaktavedanta Murte Gaurangi Bhavabringaya Radhabhavani Shevane Namo Bhakti Vinodam Shri Gora Shakti Sarupakam Bhakti Sastragya Samrajam Radharasa Sudhanidim Gauravadasya Shesha Vaishnava Bandi Vigram Jagannatha Bhumvande Premam Dingvira Vaishnava Atanatva Mantra Gurun Gurun Bhagavatacharan Yasandra Gurun Atwata Sodayam Jare Hare Krishna.
Jai Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Those are Sridhar Maharaj's version of the prayers done by what was his name? The one who knew which way Bhaktivedanta was preaching every time.
Oh, Ananta Vasudev.
And there was the yeah. So those are mostly written by him. Sridhar Maharaj rewrote them. Similar. Anyway. Hare
Thank you.
Krishna. Thank you for having these meetings. They bring new life. New life
One
to the old.
devotee asked me, he said, how much did you read tonight? And I said, nothing. And he said, was that your plan? And I said, I have my plan and Krishna has his.
Actually, we read the purports of that bhajan.
That's true. That's true. We read the purport. Exactly. Thank you for the reminder.
Which bhajan?
Gauranga Dvitipada.
Gauranga Dutipada. Acyutananda Prabhu sang it at the very beginning. And hopefully he'll sing for us again next time.
Jai.
Okay, very nice. Yeah. He was a Shiksha Guru of ISKCON. Acyutananda was because he had the close connection with the Gaudiya Math. We're learning all the songs through him. Prabhupada's recorded a few songs, but not every song. Acyutananda recorded like more than 100.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're only eternally indebted to him.
Yes.
Now we just have to arrange for someone to bring him a mridanga.
He's in Alachua, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So do you know anybody in Alachua?
I know some devotees there, yeah.
See if you can arrange a mridanga for him.
Madanga and Alachua. I'm in New York City.
Okay.
Maybe somebody. I'm in Rockaway, Queens. right on the ocean.
Lokanath has mridangas next door.
Oh, good.
Oh, good.
So you'll get one. Hopefully.
Lokanath.
Local guru.
Oh, oh yes. Mm,
He was just here, Prabhu.
Yeah.
yes. Mm,
So we'll see about continuing with the Prakasananda Saraswati's conversation on Monday.
what exact verse we on? What chapter?
Chapter 18.
Chapter 18. Of
This was tonight was just a continuation of the other night. I think we had a few things to finish up.
Mm,
Were you satisfied by the exchange at Acyutananda, Prabhu?
What?
Were you satisfied by the exchange this evening?
What did we exchange?
cash.
Well, the main thing is that he brought up that tattva of from Krishna, Balaram, Radharani, and then the presence of Gopeshwar Mahadev. And then I know that Prabhupada would not have introduced that during the 70s to foreigners, because I know, like I said, that they've run off worshiping Shiva, which would be the Rudra Shiva, or the term, the name is Bhavananda, not Bhavananda. Bhavananda, Bhavatarini is the name of Durga as a material nature. Only Shiva can derive some pleasure from material nature. So Bhavananda means Shiva.
According to Babananda's.
But anyway, they would have, and I've seen devotees even now. They'll have Tulsi beads and Rudraksha beads on the same thread, and they would have built Shiva temples, and there'd be a whole Shiva cult going on here. So Prabhupada did not enter into that. You know, even the Ramanuja Sampradaya, Madhva Sampradaya, they won't enter a Shiva temple.
Huh.
So they don't know this.
But yet above Gopal Bhatta's Radharaman temple, allegedly there is a deity of, I think it's Ganesh, isn't it? As you enter in?
Would be.
In the doorway.
Yeah.
Oh, that's done in.
That's in Prabhupada's Nectar Devotion.
To remove obstacles.
Goswami, yeah.
That's just on an entrance thing. But yes, the devotees sometimes fall into worshiping demigods. Some of them become demigod ideas.
Allegedly, Badra Narayan Maharaj, he has one now in San Diego. I think Shivaram Maharaj may have one in New Vraja in Hungary.
What, Ganesh or Shiva?
Shiva.
Yeah. Shiva.
Shiva.
Yeah. Gaudiya's our judges.
Maybe it's Ganesh, excuse me. Don't quote me on that. It may be Ganesh. Yeah.
Shiva Shuka Narada.
Yeah.
Preme
God.
Bhakti Vinoda. Deke.
Gaurara Sampat.
So time, place, and circumstance. We were not ready for it at that time, but we can hear these things now.
Yeah, but I wouldn't. Maharaj also said, Sridandi Maharaj also said, we're not going to let this go out too far.
Well, it's in this video. Hopefully, Crash, you know it ain't easy.
So cut that part out and burn it.
The way things are going, they're gonna crucify me.
But we go to the Gopishwar temple when we enter Vrindavan and get permission into.
Yes.
And
he's Kshetrapal.
Yes.
Hanumadwaiti has an ashram right around the corner, actually adjacent to the. In fact, that street is called Bhoot Gully. That's the way that the ghosts can come into Vrindavan.
Which temple are you talking about?
Gopishwar Mahadev.
Oh, I went there last year. As soon as I got to Vrindavan, I went there. And I went there on Mahashivaratri day. I just happened to go on that day. It was transcendental madness. There was thousands of people trying to squeeze into the little Gopishwar and Mahadev temple. And they had all these men dressed up in saris with gold pots on their heads. And you could see they had shaved their faces, but they were wearing red saris and they had lipstick on and bindi. I guess they were the Gauranga, what are they, Saki Beki? I think. Yeah. Very unusual.
Gauranagiris.
The bona fide group. There's some bona fideness to that.
Gauranagiris.
Yes.
One temple 1 year in front of, another time, next time we have to talk about Prakosht, the principle of Prakosht. But for each chamber of a deity room is a Prakosht. So one year there was Janmashtami maybe, and somebody put an outline of a gopi in front of the Nitai Gaur deities. That's incompatible. Chaitanya does not associate with gopis. Also, there's a thing, it's not so important in America, but in India, Lord Chaitanya never has a peacock feather. That's really a sign of the Saki Bekis and the Gaur Nagaris.
I know that Gora Govinda Maharaj made an issue out of it, but yet we saw that Prabhupada established that at all our temples. The feather in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's crown, Gornitai deities, and Lord Nityananda too, I believe. I used to be their pujari.
On the night of the Shivaratri, that night, that is two different celebrations, because the caste Brahmins, they follow one calendar, and then the Vaishnavas follow a different calendar. So there's two days in a row is celebrated by different branches. Yeah. So they're not called caste. Is the word caste Brahmin? Another word. So that's if I lived right there, so I saw it happen. The long line of worship. But there's also a bona fide. I was with Bhakti Ballabha Maharaj, and they came in. They look like gypsies, I guess they call them, and they're also have a bona fideness to them. You know about that? Anybody? The men, they dress like women. I don't know too much about them, but they all of a sudden they come in on a program and they kind of take it over for about 10, 20 minutes and they go away.
Acyutananda mentioned, I think he said they're Gauranga Nagaris.
And the two, these are in the verse of the 13. Maharaj mentioned the 13 opposite numbers. Aul, Baul, Sakiveti, Samartha Gosai, I don't know the whole verse.
But so they're not bona fide, or they're
No, they're part of the opposite. The Prakrita Sajya means you think you can have Gopi Baba in the physical body. So they're called Prakrita Sahajas.
Uppercut.
I got to go finish a round before I take rest. So I'm gonna. I mean, I can leave the computer on. You can keep talking if you want, but
We can wait till Monday, I guess, right?
yeah, Monday. Thanks for coming, Gauranga. Thank you, Sikarani, for saving the show and getting Chaitanya Maharaj in. Thank you for updating the information on my page, if that's what you did already.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Didi.
No problem.
Thank
Yeah.
you for your
And Sikarani, Acyutananda Prabhu said you can interrupt him anytime you like.
Yeah.
Thank you all for your
Hindi Vasha.
non-sectarian nature.
Yes, that's our spirit here. We're cultivating non-sectarianism in this Sangha. Loving all, respecting all Vaishnavas.
And joyfully performed. Isn't there a
Now
statement
on Monday, Loka and I may not get through because there's going to be a loud gathering here. So
That's
see
why
how that works.
I contacted Bud Ryan to see if he could go over to his place.
Where does he live?
He lives in Alachua. I don't know where, but I asked if you could go over to his place to commence the, and maybe local guru knows someone.
That's the guitar player, Butter Ryan, the musician.
Yeah. Guitar player.
With a blonde wife.
Yeah. So I hope you can find another location. Maybe Baba Tarini. Do you know anybody in Alachua? Because there's going to be a big ladies Mahotsava beside where Acyutananda Prabhu is, and it's going to drown him out. He needs another place where he could be online. Do you know of anyone in
The sound may
Alachua where he
just
could
annoy
go?
everybody else.
What did you say? Acyutananda Prabhu, what did you say?
No, if there's a noise coming in the door, it'll get into the mic and it'll disturb everybody else.
Well, there is a Gurudev has a temple there, and Arjuna, the disciple of, I think, Prabhupada disciples, and a disciple of Narayan Maharaj, is the temple president, and they have like a whole compound in Alachua.
Really?
Yes. So his
Really?
name is,
Because that's
yeah.
just about 10 steps from here.
Oh,
Yes, I know that.
okay.
It's about 10 steps. Daspadam, you know Daspadam? Shikarani.
Yes.
Daspadam Jane. 10 steps.
Yes. Oh, well, maybe it'd be too close with all the noise.
Anyway, we'll continue on with or without you, but we prefer to be with you.
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
We're looking
So,
forward
Krishna
to
will-
your bhajans.
Yes, more, please.
Yeah.
And get a mridanga, please.
Mridanga Bhaja. Oh, Chitananda Swami. A question. The first tape we got from India was a mixture of different sounds. I think Madhavananda maybe is singing Somati Nandana Bhaja. And you're on that tape. Only a couple of lines you sing. Mridanga Bhaja Shuni Te Mana Abasara Sata Jache Korabhita Kirtana Shuni Anande Vidoyana. And then stops. There's 2 lines and stops. You're on there. That recorded tape, we first cassettes to it was a brand new technology back then. So they were sending cassettes from India to, and I was with Washington, D.C. with Damodar. He was the president in Q Street. So do you know that you were part of it, one of the original tapes from India? And
I didn't follow.
in other words, you and Madhavananda and other devotees were recorded chanting, and we received the tapes in the Washington Temple. 1970. This was May 71.
Acyutananda Prabhu's tapes were played all over ISKCON. When I joined Chicago Temple in 75, they'd play them for the Artiques all the time for Shri Shri Kishore Kishori.
I'm sure they
Radhanath Swami. So many devotees were influenced by Acyutananda Prabhu's style of
Yes.
singing, and yeah, we learned from him and Prabhupada.
There's no tape
And
of
Vishnu
Prabhupada.
John.
Sri Guru Charana Padma. Sri Guru Charana Padma. There's no recording of Prabhupada chanting that as far as I know. So
Acyutananda, sorry for
Yeah.
interrupting you,
No,
Guru Krishna.
he chanted that song, and it picked up steam all over the world. And even Prabhupada.
Anyway, to be continued.
Yeah, okay.
I gotta go now. I'm sorry.
Good night.
Please
I'm
excuse me.
leaving.
Good night, Hare Krishna.
I'm very
Hare
tired
Krishna.
myself. I think I better leave as well.
10:30 now here,
So-
East Coast.
Mm.
Hare Krishna. Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna.
everyone.
Hare
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 Krishna.
Krishna, Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Hare Nitai ki naam hai na chere. Hare Krishna, Hare Nitai Nama
Acyutananda
Yate.
Prabhu, just say something, Acyutananda, because I want the last picture to end on you.
Hare Krishna.
Again, please. Tarun Krishna's competing with you.
We can start next on Monday. Bhaktivinoda Thakur
The-
wrote a song that's superior to
Because the last
Mahamantra.
person who speaks, it's their picture that's on the video. That's who you see.
Oh. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote a song that's superior to the Mahamantra. You can start there on Monday.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.